been a very slow grind to get production up, but we are currently about 5% above prior year. In addition to this, we've presented a stable face to the global market, and our investment rankings have improved. The Fraser report has moved us from 12th in Africa to 3rd, so things are trending in the right direction. But we must understand that in order for us to have prospects to attain 3 million tons, half of what we need to attract is completely new investment. We need to be the country where people come, go and open up new areas. Because what we have in hand right now, both in terms of existing assets and assets that are close to development, such as Mingomba and other assets such as Kalengwa and a few other exploration prospects, we need to ensure that we attract this capital in to carry out new discoveries. Now, unfortunately, the way things are, right now, we can only be assured of about 400,000 additional tons if you look at the various projects that are coming online. The one that I've mentioned just now. Most of the larger projects come online outside the medium-term budget framework window. I think Lumwana is the first one that comes online in 2028. Mingomba and the others come on about 2030. You know, this also includes reaching full production at Luansha around that time. So we really need to understand that for us to even have a chance of getting to the 3 million ton goal, we have to be top of mind in the world when it comes to attracting capital into Zambia. Now, the difficulties are that if you look at the percentages of success in exploration, it's more difficult to understand when you see the percentage numbers. I'll explain it in ratios. You have a 1 in 300% chance of success when you come to a country, even if there is preliminary geological information, of success of finding something. And if, as is being promulgated by government in some of the new laws that are, in fact, one that is going to the floor today, the Minerals Regulation Commission bill, that the government will take a 30% stake in these licenses. That truncation of your return results in a change from 1 in 300 to about 1 in 415 in commercial terms. And that is already making yourself less attractive. If you look at some of the policies that are running concurrently with these laws, they are talking about 30% free carry stake and 30% production share. Simple mathematics. 70% of profit and 70% of turnover means 49% of economic benefit. It means the state is going to take 51% of the economic benefit. Zimbabwe tried this in 2019 and had to walk this back within a year because investment dried up. Now, what is most concerning about this is that Zambia already has a history of making adverse changes every 2 years on average since the year 2000. We've made about 22 such changes. And this window of respite of 3 years is the longest that we've managed on average throughout the last 20 years. The last time we had this window was 15 to 18, and production recovered to almost 820, almost 900,000 tons. We had the adverse changes in policy, and you've seen where we've dropped to now. And just when we are beginning to rise, remember, right now, we need $200 million a year. Last year, I think we must have done about 1/3 of that. If we look at the investment commitments that require, the $4 billion that has been committed, let's call it 5 if we include S3 from First Quantum, is about 20% of what's required in investment for us to get to the 3 million tons. So we're just starting to turn around. And even before we can solidify these gains, we're making changes again. These changes are going to increase the risk perception of Zambia at a time when the supply of copper is short. Instead of being at the top of the list, we will drop to the bottom. We've only just managed to get back onto the investment rankings. In 2019, we dropped off completely. We came back at number 13, number 12 in Africa, number 31, number 58 in the world, Now we've moved to number 3 in Africa, behind only Morocco and Botswana, and number 34 in the world. A huge jump in the course of last year, because we were the only country that went to Indaba and had the mining Indaba, and had a really stability focused message. Despite all these empirical gains, and the fact that our turnaround plan, our own turnaround plan, remember, it's not an external plan. This was a plan that government mooted and presented to the cooperating partners for support. And it is that support which they are providing, which is giving us benchmarks we must meet. We are going against our own plan now to introduce laws that are going to suppress investment inflows. And the reason for this is because we are sending mixed messages, blaming what we are calling the dividend model, I think is what I've heard it called, of ZCCM delivering less than an expected return. But we forget that it is this incessant changing of laws that has diminished confidence in the market, which led to suspension of investments in 2018, almost $1 billion worth, and a deterioration in our assets, which is why production went down. And right when we're beginning to pick up, we want to repeat the same mistake. On top of that, when we had done our forecast in 2018, we really estimated that we were going to fall to about 820 somewhere there, 1,000 tons. But we didn't factor in the expropriation of KCM. That impact is what has made us drop to the low we had last year of 600,000 plus tons. If you factor in the way the laws are being structured now, which are also promulgating very strongly an indication to the market that we are not done expropriating assets, then I'm afraid the premium that people pay to come and invest in Zambia, the risk premium, is not going to drop as quickly as it should. It's dropped fantastically in the last 1 year, from 18% last July to 11% today, thanks to the debt renegotiations. But it should drop to a single digit. That will not happen if this bill passes, because the market is going to see that we are not yet done expropriating, we are not yet done anchoring. These laws have got several weaknesses which we've pointed out. Free carry, which is a free stake for the state going forward, is only one. Some of the other issues it introduces is that it omits coverage of the mining cadastre, it reduces accountability of the mineral licensing committee, it gives government the option to abrogate first come first serve when you come to apply for licenses. What confidence can anyone have in the process? And what's more, the law also doesn't stipulate how much of a stake the state is going to take in a license, or how it will be paid for. So, rather than looking at a foreign investor, I would like us to think about, let's call them now, an informal Zambian gold miner who is operating outside the tax net. We incentivize them to come out of the tax net, come into the tax net and formalize. Under these laws, if this person discovers a significant gold asset, the state can wake up and decide to take a stake in there without contributing anything to the investment. Are we going to see mine owners coming out of the woods to formalize with that kind of a risk? And it changes their financial obligations not. Government will not put in anything. That's what this law is saying. If it will discourage locals to invest, what will it do to the global perception of the country? And remember, if the risk premium does not come down, that means that the cost of capital, not just for mining, but for every business in this country, doesn't come down. If you look at where we are sitting now, as assessed by the IMF, you know they do regular forecasts as to where we are sitting under what we promulgated in our plan. We are on the borderline of qualifying for cheap budget support. If we take adverse actions and fall below the 85% threshold of debt exports, then we do not qualify for cheap support. And everybody's cost of capital, any of you who is in business, will go up. Those are the stakes here. These measures that are being proposed also cannot survive a price downturn. I know we are in the best market in copper in 100 years. But if we see a downturn for some reason, these measures will leave us with stranded assets. People will just withdraw their bills and machinery and wait until the market comes up, because these measures will make these investments uninvestable. They will reduce their present value, and we will have to reverse these things if there is a price downturn. That's not how you plan in mining. You need to have a long-term plan. These are short-term benefit measures, and they have not been successful everywhere else. If you look at our peers, Chile, Peru, Botswana, Namibia, even the DRC, they have been stable. And that is how they have won the market confidences and gotten to where they are. 16 years, the DRC, $200 million a year in exploration, they are at 3 million tons today. We are shooting ourselves in the foot. And so I'm afraid the budget framework that has been presented to you now is at grave risk of not materializing. Because at best, what we will see is half of the 3 million ton goal, and we will then struggle to sustain even a 1.4, 1.5 million ton level of production and face significant risk of a downturn reversion to the minimums that we've seen just now. We saw this in 2018. Investors were here. Our members were here. They took a holding position and invested money across the border, which is how we find ourselves where we are today. It's a mistake we must not make again. I know a lot of the time we are seen to be representing narrow interests. Believe you me, we were the only party that talked about the risk of debt default in 2018 and urged government not to touch mining legislation because we would deliver growth that would enable that not to happen. Hey, we're not crying wolf. You saw the results of what happened when we were not listened to last time. All we are saying, if we pass this law, which is coming to the House today, we can assure you that this framework will not stand, and we will compromise our growth and our future prospects. Without mining, investment in infrastructure is unviable. So I think those few comments are what I'd like to open with, and I thank you.
Thank you. Oh, Mr. Jembo, thank you very much for your, I see hands, honorable members. Just as a way of opening, press or switch off the... Okay, I've seen the hands, but allow me just to give you a bit of time. Mr. Chilembo, this committee, okay, now it's expanded. I've been a member of this committee from 2016. To date, and one thing sorry to say that one thing I've realized is the issue that when the Chamber of Mines do appear, and sorry today will be a bit hard on you, and complain like this, then you know that Zambians are touching on where you want to gain more, and we're all Zambians in this room. I want to give you an example of the mineral tax. As a Chamber of Mines, in fact, this is what you are pushing for. The government gave it to you. And the government now is losing almost, according to the estimates, 2 billion, 3 billion of the per year. And the Chamber of Mines, being a Zambian institute, you are not complaining. The mineral regulation authority, basically, if I understand, is the bill which is you are consistently indicated, which is coming on the floor today. One of the issues which we're looking at is giving a bit more of shareholding on institutions like the CCM, IH, so that when you sit in a boardroom where you are, they have a bit of teeth, as opposed to the way it is now, whereby the CCM, IH comes in your boardroom, and these giants, KCM and the like, they have the biggest say. And this is a Zambian institution. So I wanted to ask you a question. If that continues, who is going to protect the resources that Zambia has? If the Chamber of Mines would want to give it away as it is, in that other indicated, sorry, will be a bit hard. Who is going to protect our only resources? We'll take that as the first question. Honourable members. Another question. The other ones I've seen Honorable CVSO, Honorable Nyirenda, Honorable Simunji in that order plus mine. So those will be 4.
I think Thank you so very much, Honorable Chair. Zambia Chamber of Mines, I'm actually taken aback because the bill that you're referring to actually sits under my committee, which is National Economy, Trade and Labor Matters. And then it also takes aback about the conflicting submissions that we get from people that are supposed to protect the Zambians at large. When we had this, when we interrogated witnesses, they spoke highly about this bill that is going to come on the floor of the House, except Zambia Chamber of Mines. So that leaves us in a situation, yes, except Zambia Chamber of Mines. I don't know where you appeared before us, isn't it? Yes, they did. Except Zambia Chamber of Mines. Everyone else, the ministry and every other person that we interrogated in regards to the bill, they spoke so highly of it. And I also wanted to borrow the voice of the chair. We saw, like for example, mineral road tax, being now a deductible, where people cried foul and said, it doesn't help, and it doesn't help anywhere. Chile, everyone else, these countries that we have, this is something that you just, because we're not going to have those minerals back when they go. And that was given to, the bill was passed. Zambia Chamber of Mines is not complaining, but the general populace out there are complaining about this bill that was passed. So this conflicting kind of, information from our stakeholders really takes us aback. Especially with Zambia Chamber of Mines, you are dealing with the same. You are supposed to be before our committees, but then we have all this conflict, and they're saying, no, if you pass this is going to be a problem. The same way that it was when the mineral wealth, bill was also passed. You were for it, and everyone else was against it. So I need to understand where this conflicting, is coming from stakeholders that are supposed to be speaking the exact same language to protect the interests of the Zambian populace. I submit.
Thank you.
Chair, for me, I'm worried because I think one day Zambia will close. It will close. This country will close. With such submissions, Chair, for me, Zambia will close one day. Copper is a depleting resource. What are you coming to do there? Chair, I'm worried our country is going to close. If Zambia Chamber of Mines can come and make such a submission and warn, this is a warning to say what you're about to do on the floor of the House is actually killing the nation. You killed this nation when you removed the mineral royalty tax. Because what we are... I'm sorry, Chair. Okay. Order. Thank you, Chair. I'm so sorry.
No emotions. Ask your question.
The state having a stake in the mines is something that we have always cried about. And here, your submission, you're saying that at the time when a mine is starting to operate, they will say they are going in for copper. Then after some time, they realize that there is gold. Don't you think, as Chamber of Mines, immediately they discover something else? As Zambia, we must take a stake in that one. Because initially, you've just gone in for copper. Then you go and find schujolite. You go and find gold being mined. This is how come we have been exporting copper in the name of schujolite, because we don't really understand what is it on the ground that we have. I would really want your serious comment on this one, because this is really affecting our nation. I submit, Chair.
Honorable Simunji.
Thank you, Chair. Zambia Chamber of Commerce. My question again revolves on what my colleagues have stated. We know you represent the private sector, who are profit-oriented. As a result, you are not being considerate to the owners of the resources, such that you don't even want them to have a say in the decisions which are made by the companies. The 30% you are talking about, it is to try and give the CCMRH, which is a special vehicle for the people and the government, so that they have a say in the decisions which are made by these private companies. Now, with the way the way you are putting it, I'm getting worried. What will be how will you be protecting the Zambian people to who you belong? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Chilembo, you can respond to those. You can imagine the questions are almost interrelated, so you can give a...
Yes. Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. I think here, rather than giving theory, we will answer with empirical fact. This is a mistake we've been making since the 1970s. In 1973, when we nationalized, we did so at the same time as 3 other copper-producing countries: Chile, Peru, and the DRC. In 1976, Chile realized that their single state entity, Codelco, was not going to be able to deliver the kind of economic benefit that they were looking for on its own. So they changed policy to attract back international capital. At that time, Codelco was producing just under 1 million tons of copper per annum. 30 years later, Codelco had reached 1.7 million tons production per annum, but the private sector funds that were attracted from that time, in parallel with around $500 million of exploration capital per annum, had production at 5 million tons, and Chile is now a developed economy from us being neck and neck and being consistent in those policies. The state has organically grown Codelco, and in some cases done joint venture partnerships where they have contributed with the private sector to grow to 5 million tons. That is example number 1. When that happened, ourselves, the DRC and Peru, continued with our state model. In 1994, we had declined from about 1 million tons thereabouts in 1969 to about 340,000 tons. Peru overtook us for the first time that year. They went to 380 tons. We privatized the same year. And the policies which we put in place were low royalty, low tax to attract capital and turn around assets that had deteriorated, because in the period of nationalization, no funds were even allocated to exploration to grow the asset base and assure production growth. In that time, Peru didn't even retain an equity stake. We were wise enough to create ZCCM and retain an equity stake as a future sovereign wealth fund. Peru let everything go but maintained policy. 17 years later, 2.5 million tons production. Right now, their production pipeline, $45 billion, double our GDP. Well on the way to becoming a significantly high income country. Where are we? 630 tons last year. Let's look at the DRC. In 2007, they made changes to their laws. They kept them stable for 10 years. Overtook us in 2013, got to 1 million tons around 2018. Today, 3 million tons production out of the DRC. What is common to all these countries? Policy stability. And this policy stability has been maintained even through price fluctuation, ups and downs. Chile, as you've heard, 30% of production is in government hands. ZCCM stake today translates to 15%. My question to you is this: has the value of ZCCM stake been growing? The answer is no. What is the root cause of ZCCM stake not growing? It is policy instability. It is not the proportion of the stake. There's no problem. The market would have no problem with government deciding that ZCCM has the choice pick of exploration opportunities. They can go into new areas before anyone else, put in their money, grow the asset value by doing some exploration, and then attracting partnership. That's organic growth. The market will be very happy with that. In fact, it will attract more capital. if they do that. And if government finds, as you've pointed out, let's forget about the gold discovery being a multinational. Let's make the gold discovery a Zambian. If that gold discovery happens to a Zambian, isn't it only fair that for government taking a stake, they pay for it? There is no problem. The market will have no problem if the acquisition of the stake is paid for. That is how it is done in countries such as Botswana, which are attracting a lot of capital. And if you look at the way they are operating at the moment, even their empowerment provisions that are new, they have the financial capacity, thanks to these sorts of disciplines, to qualify their empowerment measures by just listing shares. So, as I mentioned before, why does the chamber appear, according to you, to be the lone voice that is speaking against the tide? Could it be that this is what the professional point of view is? You see, we have to take a long-term view, because mining is a long-term business, and we have to do what works. What we've explained to you now is what has worked. What we are about to try failed. We've given the example of Zimbabwe recently, and we must also understand that some of the countries that we are emulating, let's look for example at the DRC. Recall, for 10 years, stability. Then production begins to rise. Right now, they are 16 years ahead of us in exploration development. That's why they are at 3 million tons. And that's why you are seeing these empowerment measures coming through, because even the state companies' coffers are full enough to support such empowerment measures. Aid carry is the way we need to go if we're going to meet our debt obligations and deliver our growth obligations at the same time. If we don't maintain this balance, I'm assuring you, we will have a repeat of 2018. This is something we must understand. How much do we account for in the world copper market? It's 3%. Even of reserves, we're at 4%. And we're not the most competitive destination. Other regions are falling over themselves to improve their attractiveness, and they will attract capital away from us. It's happening as we speak. We have seen it happen into the DRC. We are seeing it happening into Botswana. This is what the numbers say. And I'd like to emphasize that. This is not emotional. This is about numbers and strategy. We have to be top of mind in the world. How do we protect our stake? We submitted a paper on ZCCM in 2019 around how its governance can be strengthened. And you must also understand that when we make these changes, we don't help ZCCM, because the market discounts its share value due to the instabilities that we introduce. And the market wonders, why is the owner diminishing the value of its own portfolio? Because that's what these measures do. And we have a reputation for doing this. So, the best thing we can do, let the professionals get on with the business of growing value, the professionals at ZCCM. Let's give them a stable environment, and let's attract investment. That is how we will get the benefit. If not, we'll watch Congo go to 5 million tons. We'll watch Botswana produce more copper per capita than ourselves in the next 24 months. And remember, there were adverts running in the newspapers last week. One of our key members, whose future impacts multiple towns, is out there trying to raise capital. Now the people we are going to talk to will be asking, so if we come here, in your area, we discover something of significance, what is it going to benefit us? What are the risks? We are adding to these risks. Honorable Chairperson, Madam MP for, I think it's Monday, the bill came back because we raised issues. None of them have been addressed. Instead, they've been strengthened. Our concerns, the points of concern, have been strengthened with 5 new clauses. And I'm afraid the market will not take kindly to this. It's not what we're talking about. When we speak about the market, We are talking about it from a dispassionate, analytical point of view. You won't put money where your return is reducing, and that is the net effect of this bill. If we are to be more specific, all we are doing here is speaking in terms of protecting the investment, be the investment for the Zambian people, or the Zambian individual investor or institutional investment. We should not be emotional. This is what the numbers say. And I thank you.
Honourable members, any other questions? Okay, I don't see another hand. Mr. Chirembo, thank you very much for coming through. Mining is what we would call bread basket, the one which helps to do very well, as you said, to see our economy grow and the like. And when we see these spikes here, we are all speaking this. I think our direction is the same, different views, but I think it's protecting what we have. Honorable Nyanda mentioned all these things we have. Not long from now, they will be wasting assets. They would have finished, in fact. We see this one are coming, there are those indications, this mining, if it opens, like the one which they are watering in Rwanda, is it? It has a lifespan of what? That's chapter 28. Once it comes on board, it's about 25 years in terms of the lifespan. It's not very far from now. Maybe some of our colleagues here, including myself, will want to be there by that time, meaning by that we will be depleting. So I think the key thing is we need to protect what we have, take advantage of it, do a maximum use of it, which most Zambians, including myself, sometimes I really wonder, from the 1964 when we started mining and the like, what has been the substantial benefit of Zambia from the mines? We are not saying 0%, but I could have done better, would have protected what we have lost at some points and the like. Okay, so having said that, it's our pleasure once again, sir, we had you to have this very important discussion. As you are aware that this is a consultative process between the Ministry of Finance and its stakeholders in terms of the medium-term, 2025 medium-term budget plan. So your concerns and all the others, what they are doing, we are compiling them, and we'll have the minister, I think, on Thursday. Give him the feedback as a committee, because this doesn't go in the house for debate. It will end in this committee, but we will definitely do justice, include all what you have indicated also as a witness. So thank you very much for coming. Cap 12 of the laws of Zambia, that which was given to Yajawan, also end here. Do have a good day. You wanted to...
My apologies, Mr. Chair and members. There's another item which was missing. The submission to the Committee on National Economy is supposed to have been an addendum, and it will be delivered shortly for all of you, because it is key to read it in conjunction with this submission.
We appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
So take note of that. We need that, yes. No, have a good day. Thank you.
So close my heart. This land, founded on freedom, grounded in justice, love for all mankind. It's a land where every person is born free, and it's a land of peace, of love and unity. This land, Zambia, land of the strong, home of the brave, our land, Zambia, free men we stand. side. Put a trust in God. Learn to love each other. You must sense that you're my brother. Right or wrong, together we are stronger. So don't let nothing tear us apart. Zambia, land of the strong, home of the brave, our land. Zambia, free men we stand. This land, Zambia, land of the strong, home of the brave, our land. Zambia, free men we stand. This land, Zambia, land of the strong, home of the brave, our land. Zambia, free men we stand in this land.
Mwana wangu ni chungwa, liviti nkaleng'ando. Mwana wangu ni chungwa, liviti nkaleng'ando. Mwana wangu ni nkaleng'anda, chimwana chanugu utokalume yake. Mwana wangu utokalume yake, mwana ufuna kuyenda yenda. Mwana wangu akama motoka, mwana wanuma tupangalala. Mwana wangu amai kumukosha, mwana wangu okuya kumbi. Mwana wangu ni chungwa, nikuya kwakwe ni mwana wangu akweni wangu wewe, akweni wangu ni wangu. Mwana wangu wewe ni wangu, pai mwaluba eleta mwana wangu, eleta nyama pasondo, eleta unga. Mwana wangu mukuti pumuseka, kuku zonse za tikuti kokopoko. Mwana wangu